Welcome to Valentine's Day podcast. Hi, I'm your host, Jann Arden. I'm here with Caitlin Green, Sarah Berquist, and our guest today. And I don't want to launch into like this formal thing, but I'm going to give you a few little hot tips about Cynthia Loyst, who is joining us from her Toronto home. Is that where you are, Cynthia?
Correct.
You look amazing. She's got, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see her little top that's got hearts on it. Let me tell you a little bit about this woman. Personally, she's one of the smartest, most empathic, entrepreneurial, compassionate, kick-ass women that I know. Period, full stop. That's my intro, just as Cynthia's friends. We've been friends for going on 13 years because we met on season 1 of The Social, which she has been one of the valued and true to form, completely vulnerable, kick-ass hosts of since 2000, and that would make it 2012? 2012, Jesus.
No,
2013.
Yeah.
National Bestselling Author. I had the opportunity to, do a couple of little book like events with you on your book. You are self-described professional sensualist, and we're going to ask you about that. The findyourpleasure.com is such a wealth of information. That's a whole other branch of stuff that she does and is very much linked to the book that she put out about having pleasure. I've been pestering her for at least 6 years to write another book, which I know that you're working on because I know you've been doing secret little behind the scenes talks with different publishers and stuff, but we'll leave that there. I could do like a 2-hour intro just telling you things about this woman, but let's just get right to it. Cynthia Loyst, welcome to the Jann Arden podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me, you guys. I'm so happy to share this space with all of you. And Jann, like, honestly, I could sing your praises for ages. We could just do like an hour-long podcast just talking about what we admire in each other. Actually, maybe that's a good idea for a podcast. I mean, it's just women just talking about how much they adore each other. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, we need to have that kind of camaraderie in this day and age. And I know full well, just in conversations that I've had with my girlfriends over the last few years in particular, of how important these relationships are. And maybe you can speak to that right out of the horn. Yeah, it's great to have an intimate relationship with a man and have a partner and even have a girlfriend and all those things. But there's something about your platonic female friends and sometimes male friends that are so, so, so important to our happy lives.
Yes. I mean, I think the reason why I even got interested in, well, first I got interested in sexual health because my sister got unintentionally pregnant when I was a teenager, and I saw the way I was raised in a Catholic environment. Nobody talked about sex. And so I was always curious about it, but felt there was no place for my questions, not in the church, not in it was very anti-feminist as well. I had all these inklings that there was something wrong with all this silence. And then when she got pregnant, it was like, oh, this is proof positive of what happens when you don't talk about that. And so sexual health became like my kind of like reason for living. And I became that friend who was answering all these questions. And then I went and I got my sex educator certificate from the University of Michigan. And I made documentaries about sexuality for a long time. So therein lies my main interest. But of course, when you're talking about sex, you cannot talk about it in isolation. No matter how much people want to say that, give me 5 easy ways to spice up my relationship or all these types of things. If you don't look at the way that we connect with other people on a fundamental level, you will never figure out that piece. So to go back to even platonic relationships, I think that they are so vital. And I think that there is every type of relationship that we have, whether it's a coworker, a colleague, a friend, or a lover, it has a particular alchemy. And it also stirs up a lot of deep-seated stuff inside of ourselves that come from our early relationships with our caregivers. And so for better or worse, if you're ever asking yourself, like, why do I feel so safe and comfortable immediately with somebody? That tells you something probably about what that person relates to from your childhood. And conversely, if somebody really, really starts to upset you or make you feel a certain way, that can also be early childhood stuff. So we can talk a little bit about attachment styles if we want to get into that, because I think it's a fascinating realm for discussion. And I feel like right now in TikTok and on social media, everyone's talking about it. So yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about relationships and how those present themselves in our lives?
Well, so what's fascinating about this attachment style theory is it's, I think, a lens and a window into how we both handle conflict and connection. And I think it's not necessarily like the penultimate guide to figuring out yourself. But I do feel like as we start to break this down, you're going to be like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's my partner. Oh, I've been like that. So there's basically 4 attachment styles. The first one is securely attached people. It is the gold standard. It is what we all are aiming for. It's the people we want to date. It's the people we want to become. People who are securely attached, generally speaking, had really, really present caregivers, consistent caregivers. Might have been just one caregiver as well. But those people made a model for how to get into conflict, how to resolve conflict, how to be emotionally available, and how to be present. They showed love in a way that felt safe and consistent. And so those people as adults are able to communicate comfortably. They're able to articulate boundaries. They're able to handle closeness as well as independence. So this is, again, that's a securely attached person. But under the umbrella of insecure attachment, there are 3 main types. So the first one is anxious attachment. So it's the classic overthinker, somebody who often feels deeply, deeply insecure if they don't hear back from their text right away. They might start to spiral. A lot of women fall into this category. I hate to gender this, but where it's like you're early on in a relationship and you start to, feel like, oh, I'm into them and they're into me, but they didn't, call me that one time, or, they haven't responded to my text quickly enough. Oh my God, what's happening? And it might seem like they're turning into kind of like an insecure clinger. But in fact, it really is just a person's trying to get their nervous system recalibrated. And where this comes from is they may have had caregivers who were inconsistent. So they might have had I hate to put it on a mother in this case, I'm just going to say like a caregiver who was loving, but then sometimes really distracted or overwhelmed or edgy at times, just a little bit of inconsistency. So what this did was it told a person as a young person that they sort of they didn't know when they were going to get love again. So they developed a little bit of anxiousness. Second one under the insecure attachment style is avoidant attachment.
Oh,
This
Jesus.
is classic lone wolf. Jann, I wonder if I don't know. I'm not gonna try to pin
No.
guys.
I was going to say,
Please,
so I feel like
any
this is
insights?
Jan.
Yeah, okay. Does anyone?
Yeah,
Okay,
as soon as you
Maybe a
said
little
that,
bit of
I'm
me
like,
too.
I think this is probably going to be me.
A little bit of me too. A little bit.
Okay.
so avoidant is kind of the classic lone wolf. They desire closeness, but their interest in having independence sort of trumps everything. So when they when they were growing up, their caregiving might have looked like somebody who, or caregivers who didn't encourage emotional discussions. They were told to sort of tamp down their emotions. And they did that for self-preservation. And also because they just felt like they couldn't be validated. And so as a result, when they're older, a lot of times these people can seem distant. They can seem cold. It's not that they necessarily are. It's just that, again, they've learned that they need to rely on themselves above all else. Okay, we here for the still?
Mhm.
Okay. The last one, the fourth one, is something known as disorganized attachment. So this generally is sort of the person you've met who's kind of chaos or a roller coaster. So they're hot, they're cold, they're on, they're off. And this came from a lot of times a bit of a traumatic, maybe childhood, where there was a lot of volatility in the home. There may have even been abuse, but not necessarily. And as a result, these people, again, they sort of tend to, I don't know if you've met these people where it's like if things are kind of calm, that's when they start to get uncomfortable. And things are safe. That's when you'll hear those people who you've said I met this guy and he was just he was like all right on paper, but he was just kind of also boring. And because they like to have this up and down, it makes them oddly feel kind of safe, but that can be a really hard person to be in a relationship with. So keep in mind as I'm saying all this and you're thinking, who am I? Who is everyone? We're all we might see bits and pieces of ourselves in these, and they're not fixed. We're like computer programs that can always receive updates. We can always change. So if you want, I can give you a couple of scenarios, or you had a question. Go for it.
Well, I think describing the lone wolf, it's so interesting that you say this. And there's some other things that sort of are part of that for me. And that is when I was drinking. I think that was very much me. But I really relate to the first one. I think I'm incredibly reliable. I think I'm completely there and able to self-regulate myself and be, I mean, I don't think I would be in a relationship now if I hadn't have done all the work that I've done in the last 10 years. Because I
Bingo.
really was that lone wolf. I wanted to be in a relationship, but I wanted my independence and I wanted my secret little life and I wanted to be able to drink and I wanted to be able to go do my shit. And so I take that responsibility. I was not great to be in a relationship with. I'm not going to take all the responsibility because I was obviously with other people, but
Yeah.
there must
I
be
think,
things that vector into these various
well,
types.
I think for the avoidant type, and I think what you've done brilliantly, if that is your predominant type or was your predominant type, I think it is absolutely true that maybe there were, again, I think substance abuse can come into those things as ways to heal. Same with avoidant types, kind of like make them feel safe. And I think what you've done brilliantly is, again, taken time away. You've actually worked on yourself. And then you found a partnership that actually matched where you were becoming more secure. You did enough self-inquiry to figure out, what is it that I need? How do I draw safe boundaries? How do I maintain my independence and also feel good about intimacy? So you really, really thought about these things. So somebody who is listening, who's like, oh, I feel like I might be an avoidant type, this is the way it might play out. You're in a situation, somebody is demanding closeness from you, but you feel this kind of panic and you kind of want to get away. It is the work to sort of just like stay in that space a tiny beat longer when things start to feel like, oh, I'm worried I'm getting smothered or I'm worried that I'm losing my identity. It's like trying to come with curiosity with all of those. What is being stirred inside of me? Where is this coming from?
How many of your friends have said these things to you, Jann, like as you were coming out of it?
I mean, a lot. I think people are very surprised by that I'm even in a relationship because I talked about not being in one for so long. But I did meet somebody who also values their own individuality and travels with her work and has her own life and her own home and have children. And, you know, she's got a lot of responsibility and she also really values the time that we have together. But it's definitely my equal. It's definitely someone who can let me be me and knows what is important to me and values what's important to me. Like I'm blown away every day. Every day I wake up and go, this cannot be a real person. And I think we all lose sight of that. I think we all eventually give up going, we can't have all the things that we want. We can't have our dream list of things in a person that we have to settle. And maybe you can speak to that too, Cynthia, I don't think that's true. Like, I have not had to strike one thing off my list and say, well, it's good enough. I think I've done that in the past, but I really am so surprised by being my best self. I've met someone who's also their best self. And I was able to say, who I'm going to show this person is good enough. I'm not going to make somebody up. I'm not going to try and exaggerate myself and be like, oh, I really want to be attractive to this person. And I didn't do any of that. I'm like, I went into this, I'm just going to be who I am. And if that's not what she wants, then that's okay. And it was amazing.
Do you think that you would have recognized each other's values had you met like a decade ago?
Never.
Interesting. So what has changed in both of your lives, would you say, that this is the perfect timing? Because timing is a huge thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't speak for Thordis, but for me, it really is being in the trees for a long, long time. And I didn't date. Cynthia, you know that. I mean, I think I had one little blip in there and it was very short-lived. But for the most part, I was just like, oh God, I'm so not ready to do anything. I need to just be with my friends. Like getting back to where we started this conversation is the importance of friends like yourself and, you know, my Lisa and Bev and, you know, obviously the girls that are on this show with us right now are very important to me. And we've talked so much about stuff. And so I think when you realize who you are to the people around you, and I knew what kind of a person that I was and that I was a person of my word. And that just took time because I wasn't. I used to always drop the ball and I never did what I said I was going to do when I was drinking. But Thordis and I just talk about meeting at certain points in our lives, and she, Thordis will say, we would have lit the fucking world on fire. We would have been like explosive. We would have been in jail. We would have been like, you and I would have absolutely torn each other from limb to limb. Like, it would have been a very short and brief encounter that just would have been explosive. And, because she was
Volatile.
like,
Yeah.
oh, just terrible. And like she always says, this was the time. This was the time for you and the time for me. And we were just both, it was at exactly that moment. I always talk about it being very mathematical and quantum physics, and part of, our different part of our consciousness that enables us to see other people and to be vulnerable and to walk into things. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I wasn't afraid, because I was very afraid.
Yes. It's understandable. It's terrifying. Relationships are not for the faint of heart. I will say, as somebody who's been in one for almost 26 years, I feel like I've been in about 5 different relationships in that time. And in some ways, it's funny because I have a niece who's like 19 or 20, and she's in her beginning stages of relationships. And sometimes I'm like, oh, wow, it'd be interesting to go back to that time. If you could only have the wisdom that you do now but then I'm just like, no, I actually really appreciate also the work of relationships, because it's the work of our lives. Like, it is hard sometimes. It is hard to peel back. You enter parenting into the mix too. Caitlin, I'm curious about your, it adds in a whole nother adds in a whole nother dimension. And part of it is also because you start to unearth stuff that you didn't even know you had. For better or worse. It can stir up all kinds of, I feel like, ancient childhood wounds.
Yeah.
Your parenting decisions, like there are aspects that come up that you don't get preparation for. And so you just have to kind of hold on and try to figure out. I was listening the other day about like this idea of finding compromises, and that in a way that's kind of a bad idea in relationships, because then there's always a winner and a loser. And power dynamics are an interesting thing, because you, as equals, you want to come in. But when you have a situation where you don't agree on something, somebody is always going to have to either bend, or you really try to come up with a solution together. That is something that is like, oh, how do we do that? No one gives us training for that. We grow up in parenting relationships where they just tell us this is right and this is the way you do it, and do you do it now? That's the way I was raised, certainly. So now I'm trying to raise my son differently, or we are, and then also raise each other differently to make sure I'm never saying this is the way you do that, but trying to come with that curiosity piece of like, why are you doing that way? What are you doing over there? And trying to actually grow and learn together.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
So much of parenting, in my experience, has been reparenting yourself. And I really do feel like, thank goodness I'm in therapy throughout the whole thing. And it has been incredibly helpful to have like that space to talk about all the things that come up in your mind, and how you place them and categorize things is very helpful to me. But to your point on compromises, I think a big deal that I look back on in my unsuccessful past relationships was that I did often feel that I was in a relationship with a partner where they would desire for there to be a winner and a loser at the end of an argument. And I think one of the great things about my husband is that I never, if someone was right or wrong or had done whatever, I never felt like he was keeping track. I never felt like his end goal was to prove that he was right and I was wrong. We may disagree on things, but I think coming from that sort of feeling of partnership and the spirit of like partnership together was really important and very attractive because it does calm your nervous system. You do get the chance to feel safe with that person, and that is ultimately attractive. And I think it creates such a more intimate bond with someone when you're like, oh, I can actually trust you, even if we get into a fight, even if things go sideways. It's not going to kind of be the be all and end all. I think in a lot of past relationships, there were so many arguments that I felt like were unnecessarily high stakes. And I just liked being in a relationship where it was much lower stakes all the time.
Jann, I'm curious, are you aware that right now there's a huge trend going of people who are choosing to like live apart, like never get together, like never live in the same place? And I feel
No,
like
I
You
didn't know
started that
that.
trend. Just kidding. I think it started before you. But I think it's actually, there is more and more evidence to suggest that, like, I think the way you're doing it, it's not always going to work in every situation. Like, it'd be hard to raise a child and do it, but I think there is something really powerful. How are you? Because there was a time when I feel like I would have been, there's a time and an age. I had a girlfriend who was once dating a guy in Egypt and she was living here and she wanted to have a big family. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to make this work. Because, like, one, he never wants to leave Egypt and you don't want to move there. So how is this ever, you're kind of heading, but it's different, the age and stage you're at. Do you have any kind of, I feel like you must have made sort of rules about how are we going to remain connected and trusting with this distance?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, obviously, being in Iceland and in Western Canada. It's not a horrible distance and certainly not Egypt, but we always have a plan. So Thordis and I always talk about a plan. So I was able to go for 2 weeks. And one of those weeks we had the kids. And so being a step parent is exciting for me. I think I have a lot to offer. She has a 16-year-old son and she has 7-year-old twins. And she's very much the parent. I'm not the parent. I think being a step parent or a bonus parent, as Meredith Shaw says, is really exciting for me. The kids really like me. And I'm not in the point where I'm thinking that, people ask me all the time, are you going to move there? And I'm not. She's not moving here and I'm not moving there. She can't. She shares custody with her ex-husband and they go back every week. But like she will be coming here on the 11th for that week. We always have a plan. And then I'll go back like the first week of March. And then she's coming back and actually bringing her 16-year-old son as part of his Christmas present, coming back the last week of March during spring break for him. And so we always have a plan, but we both recognize, like right now, she's in Helsinki. She's, probably speaking to the Finnish government about how to inform policy or something. I don't know. I mean, I'm making that up right now, but, she's flying there. So her work is very international and she's doing stuff like that all the time. But one thing that we do know is that we appreciate each other's jobs. We value what each other what we each do just personally and how important my home is here and everything that I've built up. But now we have another home. I have another home there that I love going there. I've never been in water so much in my life, but I'm glad to hear you say that it's something that seems more possible to people because she and I are not living the kind of lives that our parents lived. Where you immediately buy a little house and white picket fence and raise kids. And, it's actually a real adventure. And I'm not saying that it's always going to be easy, but technology has also changed the way we go forward. I speak to her every day for hours.
You can see her. Like,
I can see her all the time. I said goodnight to her. She's 9 hours ahead in Helsinki.
Oh my gosh.
And so it has made it so different. It's like this. It's like having a conversation. I can sit down and have a meal with her when I'm away. And we both love our jobs so much and we're cheering each other on. And I cannot fathom how much we will be able to do, how that will grow exponentially because of having that kind of support. She never wants to drag me down. She said from the beginning, I never, ever want to get in the way of you and what you do, ever. And I feel the same way about what she does. I would never ask anyone to give up things for me. And I have been asked in other relationships to make choices. And that just left me in an impossible situation.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be okay. I think as I get older, I might be there for months at a time.
Yep.
And come back here. But I don't think either of us think that that's necessary. It's great to have and then we have the condo in Toronto as well.
Yeah.
So
you've got options,
I feel extremely grateful.
Yeah. It's good. It's good.
Extremely grateful. I want to talk to you more about, and we talked about this a little bit in your intro, is just how you perceive yourself as a person that, what would you call it? Like just the intimacy work that you're doing, or what do you label it as?
I mean, I think I'm interested in human connection ultimately. And I think the reason why I become really interested in pleasure has to do with my background. I think that pleasure, I don't know if I've said this to you before, but when I was growing up, pleasure was really, really frowned upon. It immediately conjured up something highly sexual automatically. And it was seen as this kind of like dirty cousin to happiness, this slippery slope to ruin. And there was a lot of shame attached to the idea of indulgence. And I don't even just mean in a sexual realm. It was like, don't eat too much because then you'll be in this sort of like the association with body. Like anything that was pleasurable seemed to be like, watch out. The model of a perfect woman was, and I think in many ways still is today, someone who exhibits restraint, self-control, minimizes themselves, both audibly, like doesn't say too much, doesn't express too much, certainly doesn't take up too much space. So I became really interested in this idea of pleasure, and it still is a word that triggers a lot. And I still wrestle with it. I think the reason why I became so interested in it is because I do wrestle with it. I do prioritize pleasure. I would say that by some people's eyes, maybe I'm a bit selfish about the choices that I make in my life. Like I get up every day and I journal every day religiously.
I
I
love
make
that.
myself, I have a ritual around my coffee. I have a ritual around yoga. Then I make a lunch like a Tasmanian devil for my son. And like I pack up all my stuff and then I go. Jason always does the pickups and drop offs, at least while he's in town. And I go to a sauna and a cold plunge where a place I've just decided, okay, I'd rather work at home and not have a gym membership and make this my gym. This is the same amount of money. And so I made that a choice where every day, even if I only can get in for a half an hour, I go in because it's indulgent. It's sensual. It has transformed me. And I think women, we know, statistically put themselves last.
Yeah.
Especially when kids come into the picture and they end up taking on emotional labor. And there are so many things where I think part of it in straight relationships is that men don't observe and pick up they don't see what needs to get done. But I also think women also can then fall into these traps where they're seeing other people's lives on Instagram and they think, oh my God, this is what a good mom looks like, or this is what a good home looks like. Honestly, there's a garbage bag right to my right on the floor right now. Right now. Right there. It's filled with some clothes that's going to go to, Goodwill or something like that eventually. But I could have made that a priority this weekend. Guess what? I didn't. Instead, I chose to go out for a walk with my kid in the snow. Like I am always trying to calibrate, okay, what do I need?
Mm-hmm.
And I think more women need to really tune in to that deep inner voice. And it's something I learned when I went on burnout leave. But since then, it's just, pleasure has been the guiding force, I think, of my life.
That's what I was going to ask you about. So, because it's a conversation that comes up at like a lot of my girls' dinners and just like in life as we've gotten older, because I know that you talked very publicly about your experience with burnout. I have a lot of girlfriends who will sort of like rake themselves over the coals for being like, my sex drive has declined. Like, and I think a lot of it, when we talk about it, I feel as though maybe they're burnt out. And because they're experiencing this feeling of being like disconnected from their own body. And it's because the to-do list in their head never shuts up. It's because they don't have any time to take for themselves to like do things that would make them feel attractive. And that could just be going for a walk, but it could also just be like going for a cold plunge, whatever those moments are for you. And because they've lost touch with that and they've existed solely for so many people, the burnout, I think, is impacting their sex life too now.
Absolutely. I also think we have this completely misguided idea around sex drive. And there's this idea presented to us from like Hollywood and romance novels and early relationships that it's going to like overwhelm us like a tidal wave, or that we'll just be walking around and be like, oh, I'm in the mood today. And seldom in long-term relationships is that the way that works, particularly for women. That's spontaneous. There's two types of desire, right? Spontaneous desire and responsive desire. Spontaneous desire is the one that I just described. Responsive desire, which much more women will go through. They go through both, and they're both normal. But particularly in long-term relationships, it's that you are already in the process of doing something sensual, and it might be intimate connection with your partner. But then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, then the desire is born out of that. And you're 100% right, Caitlin. Like the only way that comes is if we prioritize it, if we give ourselves space to feel good in our body, to feel good in our relationships. There's also this great analogy that a woman named Emily Nagoski, she wrote a book called Come As You Are. She talks a lot about sort of like we're almost like a car. So there's the things that we can try to rev our engine. So that might be things like a cold plunge or a bath or erotica or a sex toy or all those types of things that might like get us going. But that's irrelevant if our foot is on the brake. And so our brake might be, I'm depressed. I resent my partner. There's, for some people, it's like my kid is in the other room. I can hear them. So the process of actually getting turned on is figuring out how to not only rev your engine, but take your foot off the brake. So that requires, like, I remember this one time early on, I'd just given birth, I think, I don't know, maybe like I was a year in, and Jason and I had a window of time, like the baby was sleeping, and I was like, okay. And I like, he went to go in the shower, and what did I do? I opened up like my phone to look at baby milestones, and I caught myself. I was like, ooh, this is not erotic at all. Like, I am setting myself up for failure here. Like, why would I first go to this? I got to pull out something else to get myself in the mood.
You have to watch Heated Rivalry.
Oh, yeah, well, that didn't exist at that time, but you're 100% right.
I'm the only person in the world that hasn't watched Heated Rivalry.
Oh,
my
Jann,
gosh, Jann, treat
it's
yourself.
worth watching.
I haven't either yet.
Oh, okay.
I literally just haven't had the time. But I will. It's like top of my list. I'm kind of glad that I haven't had the time to watch a lot of stuff. But I love the fact that we have a prime minister that can embrace one of the lead characters and have his leg, held in his arms and be talking about it in reference to what Canada is and how we embrace love, and this is the place to be. And he found an angle to it. I'm sorry that this is kind of a sidebar, but
No.
still talking about a prime minister that's so willing to talk about sexuality and love in all its forms.
It's such a great story. I just think for the moment that we're in right now, because of our relationship with the US and everything that's been going on, to have this show that has become the most talked about show on a global level that was Canadian born and made, and that Jacob Tierney, the showrunner for that, he actually shopped it around to the US, and they kept on telling him, well, you're going to have to like change. It's a little bit too risque. You're going to have to, and he refused. And so brought it back to Canada. It was made, and look at this success. So I think there's this, the undercurrent is the story of Canadian grit and also like our values. And I think that's, it's just like, it makes me filled with pride. Like, it's just so great,
We would be remiss not to ask you about the pressures of Valentine's Day. And I say this because I am going into my first Valentine's Day with my partner.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what to do. I have some ideas. She's going to be here. Didn't even think about that. When she comes on the 11th, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to be here that week. And what do I do? And there's all the sort of the traditional stuff that we're used to. But do you have any advice for people that are in 50-year marriages or at 20 years or just to started dating someone? Like, Valentine's is touted as the most romantic day of the year. Help us, Cynthia Loyst. Help us.
Well, I kind of resist all of that pressure. I feel like it ends up feeling, I think many people feel it's very commercialized as a result, but you do kind of have to know your partner's love language. Do you know Thordis's general love language?
Yes.
What is it?
I mean, I think she is an extremely sensual person. She loves to do things. Like, I think her go-to, if she wanted to do something really great, would be to go to thermal spas, would be to get into water, would be to have like a delicious meal.
Okay.
And, like those things. She's really easy. She doesn't, it's not things.
It's not like she's like, that there's like
stuff.
Okay, it's not stuff. So there's like the love languages. I think people are familiar with them, which is like either acts of service, gifts, touch, or like sex, words of affirmation. And am I missing one of them? Anyway, let's just say I think I'm missing one of them, but whatever. So it sounds to me like she's more maybe experiential. Is that one of the love languages?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it is doing something and definitely being together and, just stargazing or going on a great walk
It
and
sounds like
obviously
every
obviously
day, you guys.
intimacy and things like that, but it's not jewelry, it's not flowers
No.
for the most part. It's not stuff like that. I'm not worried about that, but it's just like now I need to think about where the hell is like a thermal spa around here. We've got lots of hot springs. We've got like the Radium Hot Springs. I think there's hot springs in Banff. I got to make some phone calls.
So
Yeah.
one is the one that we were forgetting is quality time, and it sounds like that would be tortoises.
That's tortoises.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
exactly it.
definitely, especially when you do have a long distance relationship.
Yeah, oh for
You
sure.
know, time is paramount. And because of that, we generally don't socialize a lot.
Have you written her a
Uh,
song, Jan? I feel like that would be
I have written her a couple of songs
Yep.
now.
okay. Well,
I'm
there
just
you go.
starting down that road.
To me, that
So-
would be like, I think, the most romantic thing that you could do next to all. I mean, it sounds like every day is kind of Valentine's Day in your world. I think for people who are like just sort of struggling, I think do something. That's what I would say, is that even if you think your partner doesn't really care and isn't a big deal, I think you just choose one thing. And it doesn't have to be going out and trying to make a reservation. Oftentimes, going to restaurants can be kind of a nightmare on Valentine's Day or those big things, but you can never go wrong by picking up for example with Jason, like I know he doesn't like cut flowers. He feels like there's something really, I don't know, wrong, and I get this.
counterintuitive about cutting a flower.
They're dying. They're like, you buy
Yes.
it, you put it in a thing, and they're instantly kind of dying. So
Yes, I know.
think for him, if he was going to give something for me, knowing I do love flowers, he should get me a plant, right? But then I have to keep it alive. But like, I don't think you can go wrong.
But then I have to keep it alive.
I'm somebody who I like lingerie, and so like you can never go wrong with, because to me this opens up a
Yes.
whole world of like role
She
playing.
is a lingerie person.
I
for
do.
sure.
I love them. But I think you can, writing a handwritten note, like you don't have to
But
do.
what about like Sarah for Dan? What about
Sarah, what do you-
Caitlin for like Kyle? Like,
Okay, tell me
and
one
it's
thing
not
about
Shoppers
Dan.
Drug Mart fucking box shaped
Not do
shitty
that.
chocolates. Like, can we all agree
Dan?
on that?
Okay, he just got out of the shower. But
Oh.
what is your love language? Yeah,
What are we talking
physical touch.
about?
Physical
Okay.
touch.
Well, then you got your
That's
night
easy.
out
That's
for you.
easy. But I think for me, I also need words of affirmation. I'm like a bit of both there.
So Dan needs to listen to this. So he
Yeah,
needs. to
he's
plan-
listening right now. Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, you got to, if that's words of affirmation, you got to either write something or send a really nice voice note early on in the day. Like that's an easy way. Maybe you would like him to read something together. I have a whole collection, Jan, I
Okay.
feel like you do too, of cards, like connection cards. You can get these from anywhere. This one's called Connect. Remember why? This is from the School of Life. Esther Perel has a whole bunch of them,
Yeah.
which are the Where Should We Begin cards.
Yeah.
Okay.
These are amazing for creating conversation, and some of them are like you can do with even colleagues or friends, and other ones are just spicy like loved ones. That would get you going. And then for
Get you
him, you
going.
can do something that's more like physical
Okay,
touch.
wait. I feel like I need a refresh on what Caitlin and Kyle even think about Valentine's Day.
Oh,
I think historically not much.
Okay, I have feeling.
Only just because,
Yeah.
like Cynthia outlined, we had so many experiences where you pay an arm and a leg for a reservation at like the hottest restaurant. You're surrounded by a table of twos. God forbid they have a fixed price menu. Everyone has a single flower. I just was like, we are not part of something that is in any way unique or personal to us. It is super manufactured and thus
Yeah.
like not hot. So I think now the only thing we do is we do a tradition of like a low stakes dinner reservation at one of our favorite local spots that is like not fancy, and we go with Will. So Will comes out for like a little Valentine's dinner with us. But my husband is 100% physical touch. So like that's not rocket science over there. So I'm like,
Okay.
for me, I do like a gift.
okay.
But
okay.
it doesn't need to be like fancy, but I think something, like I can
Yeah.
think back on like, a few gifts he's given me. And again, like they don't have to be fancy, but if it's something that I really enjoy and then I think of him when I'm wearing it, like a really soft scarf or a really beautiful scent, I think those things, I do really like them. I also am a physical touch gal. So like we're well matched in that way.
There's a great exercise, which normally is done alongside with a sexual therapist. So, take this with a grain of salt. But I like the
Okay.
spirit of this because a lot of times people can feel like if their partner's love language is physical touch and they're touched out because they have a new child or whatever,
Mhm.
they feel like too much pressure for, okay, I guess I got to have sex on Valentine's Day. And that can feel like
Right.
a lot. So, a great exercise. It's from Masters and Johnson. It's called Sensate Focus. And basically, one person lies down and they are going to be the receiver of the touch. And it starts off,
Oh.
you're not allowed to touch genitals at all. You have to start touching, like, and there's no kissing. Like, you're just actually touching and trying to get a read on what kinds of things are actually pleasurable and what kinds of things. Because sometimes, even if you've been together for a long time, you might go into certain patterns. And
Mhm.
there might be times when you're like, oh, I never told them early on that I don't really love it when they do this. So you can slow everything down and really get a feedback going. Set the music right, like put on a candle, just set this tone. And like, I love the idea of sex actually being off the table. This might not be the best idea for Valentine's Day, but what it does is it stokes a fire as well. To go back to desire,
Mhm.
it's like, how can we do this a few times on our next few date nights where we don't actually have sex and let it build that kind of tension, that kind of curiosity, that almost rediscovery of each other's bodies. And then, again, and also giving pleasure and letting somebody just receive that pleasure. Because a lot of times, again, we might get into our own heads being like, okay, I guess I got to reciprocate on this,
Yeah.
activity. But if the rules are, you are actually, for this next half hour or whatever, you're just the receiver of
Mhm.
pleasure and you don't have to do anything in
Ooh.
return.
Mhm.
It's quite powerful to try out.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
also
I'm
speaks to, I think,
into
like
this.
people, like the need for like longing, especially in long-term relationships. It goes out the window. And again, not just because I'm obsessed with the show, all roads don't have to lead back to heated rivalry,
They
yet for me they
can.
do. They can. And I think that's
Caitlin
what
would like that on the TV in the background during Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
No, I want to watch that alone first.
Get it.
But I feel like that's what the show captured really well. And I think that's why so many straight women really connected with it, was because this feeling of longing and not being able to be together and then having to kind of like sneak around. And then the payoff of that, I think that can be missing in long-term relationships because you do just get stuck in the muck and the mire of day-to-day life. So I really like that exercise, Cynthia.
So, on the keeping of longing, here's a suggestion for you, because this is something that actually comes from my podcast co-host, Josie Dye.
Mm.
And I've never tried this out, but I do like the spirit of it, which is that you meet up. You meet up separately with your partner at a hotel bar,
Oh.
and you kind of act like strangers and flirt
We
with
have
each
done that.
Oh, Jan. Okay, do tell.
Well,
Oh,
Okay.
It was so fun. We got a hotel room actually.
see, I
we
love
met.
this idea.
We met. I know she wouldn't mind me talking about this because it was so fun. We met in a hotel bar restaurant and just sort of acted like we had never met each other before and had dinner and did the whole, I'll give you the key to my room to come up. It
I
was
might knock, I might answer.
yeah, it was
Very heated
so
rivalry.
fun. It was so fun, and we stayed overnight there. It was really lovely. There's a thermal spa like in the hotel. It was you can like literally go to the locker room and be in hot water on the outside of the fucking roof of this hotel in downtown Reykjavik. It's a
That's
thermal
amazing.
spa. Like this place is nuts. But anyway, I without saying too much about it, it was unbelievably interesting. It was it was amazing. It was an amazing experience and one that I'll never forget. We still talk about it.
I love this. I love it. And it's like, it's bringing play back. Esther Perel, who's this incredible therapist from New York, and she often says, like, try to think of sex not as a thing that you do, but a place that you go. And
Yeah.
obviously that requires safety and that requires, a good relationship and all that. But it's a thing to try being conceptualizing more of, as opposed to just thinking like, okay, I got this thing on my to-do list.
Mhm.
Thinking of it as a kind of adventure that's filled with play is much more appealing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I learned a lot about her too
Yeah.
because I asked a lot of questions that I hadn't asked.
Yeah.
Well, this is the thing.
And it was just so interesting. And
Cool.
I mean, we're both very theatrical. I mean, she's a playwright and an actor, and obviously there's advantages to the kind of jobs that we both have. But anyone could do it. Like if you're willing to
Mhm.
sit in your discomfort for the first few minutes, it was hard for us to go back to her and I
Yes.
the
But
next
it is.
day
Oh, because you
because
were
we
you
went to sleep like that.
Oh,
You guys
And
went
so
method, and then you had
when
to
we
come.
woke up, I think it was either her or me, and I think she said, "Are we us?" I said, "Baby, we're us."
Oh my God, it's so funny. We have some listener questions I don't want to forget about.
Yeah,
if
no,
that's
let's
okay.
do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are from our only Jans. So Janice, how do you handle anxious attachment for Valentine's Day specifically, the desire to make the day special, yet anxiety triggers worries that what you do will not be enough? How do you reassure yourself?
I think that's all about regulation. So if you feel that anxiousness coming up about the pressure or whatever it is in the real time, it's like recognize in real time. It sounds like Janice is self-aware, is like, oh, that thing is happening in my mind. What's the story I'm telling myself here? Um, Actually, I don't know if you've heard of the work of Byron Katie. Have we talked about this before? So Byron Katie
I don't
is,
think so.
oh, I'm just like, she's quirky and she's odd, but she has this methodology of 4 questions when you're feeling anxious or worried or overwhelmed with a story that you're telling yourself.
Oh,
that
we'll
you
put
ask
these in the
yourself.
show notes.
This is the 4 questions that you ask yourself. So I'll give you an
Okay.
example. When I was this is like a sort of random story, but I'll come back to this.
Okay.
I was on a cruise ship a couple of years ago, and I've been on a lot of cruise ships, but this particular cruise ship was very much like this, right? And so I was lying in bed at night, and I was panicking. I was telling myself this kind of anxiety loop of like, oh my God, we're gonna die. What happens if we die? Would they even tell us that we're gonna be like headed into like what's going on here? Like I had this whole like story I was telling myself, and so I came back to these are the questions that you ask yourself.
Okay.
The first question is it true? Okay. And in that situation, I was like, well, it might be. Like, it might be true. I don't know. Second question is, how can I absolutely know that it's true? Well, okay, I can't know that it's possible. I can't 100% know. The third question is, who would I be or how would I feel if I didn't have this thought? So if I was doing that in real time, I'd be like, well, if I didn't have this thought that we're going to all die, I'd probably be like enjoying the sort of rocking back and forth. I'd be just sort of like, I guess we're just, having a normal cruise night, whatever. It's weird weather. Who cares? And then the fourth question, what you're supposed to do is turn it around. Instead of, so if the story in my head was, we are so unsafe, things are going to go wrong. This flip side of it is we are the safest we've ever been. This captain has this on lock. Like you tell yourself the opposite of the story that's giving you anxiety. So to go back to Janice, she's saying she's anxious about Valentine's Day. So I would get her to do that. Get to the core of what is really making you anxious and ask yourself the 4 questions. Is it true? How can I absolutely know it's true? How would I feel without the thought? And then turn it around.
I really like that.
I mean, it's true. It's so easy to get yourself into these cycles of just not trusting your brain. I mean, we've all heard that saying, don't believe everything that you think.
You talk about worry is a liar also.
Worry is a liar. And, and worrying is also praying for things that you don't want. That's another one that's kind of hard to swallow. But we're all in the same boat. I think we're all so hard on ourselves, but you've got to know that the person sitting next to you at a movie theater or someone that you're passing in your car, we all experience such similar things. There's only so many emotions.
Yeah.
And I think we're all struggling with personal relationships in lieu of everything that's going on in the world. Everyone deals with stuff differently, but I think at the, still going back to friendships, like platonic friendships, I can't stress to you how much they have informed me as I'm going forward into like an intimate relationship. There's such a bar that has been gifted me of what, how my friends have supported me and the same as for Thordis. It's amazing, meeting her dear heart friends. I thought this is a person that values friendships and that curates and nurtures and feeds beautiful friendships. And that's told me so much about her as well.
Green flag.
Yeah, it's just like, oh my God, and she was so excited for me to meet her friends. And I just was like, wow, this is exactly the person that she is showing me to be. There was no, I think if you don't ever meet the person's friends that you're interested in or dating or whatever, I think that's kind of a telltale sign. I think it's important to know who they have in their lives, cheering them on and supporting them and giving them advice, And these are solid, smart women that are, so much like her. They're doers and artists and burlesque dancers and politicians, and it's, it just
All
says
different
so
ends of the
much.
spectrum. I love it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, Nikki here. I feel like you kind of answered it, but maybe you have a different take on it. Nikki wanted to know, for a wife whose husband has a really low sex drive, nagging's not working. I don't want to make him feel bad, but I'm dying over here.
Mm-hmm.
So the role play thing is an interesting.
Well, I would also get curious, and this is where a good therapist might be able to help too, if you don't feel comfortable having these conversations on your own. But when did you start to notice his sex drive change? What other extenuating circumstances are going on? Is he depressed? Is he, I would get really curious about what is going on. And these can be really tender, vulnerable conversations. And that's why it is helpful to have a really good marital, couples therapist to sort of get you remembering what worked in your sex life when you first got together, because presumably something brought you together, something was working at one point in time or you wouldn't be together, to resurrect some of those feelings of what the early sex and the desire looked like, and then to track and to try to figure out where things started to change, because men and women are not that different. And so we have these presumptions that it's usually the woman who has the lower sex drive than the man. That's certainly not the case necessarily. And so I would ask her, if she can't get a therapist to help them navigate this, is just do it outside the bedroom. Start asking these questions. I spoke at a women's retreat recently, and I'm not going to say names, but there was one woman who had a similar thing. And I made this, maybe I'll give you a link you can put in your show notes.
Sure.
I had made this I invented this kind of pleasure mapping technique. And it was based around asking sort of questions related to what's your inner compass lead you to when you think of pleasure or whatever. They were just curious questions. So she brought it home and she reached out to me afterwards to tell me this, and sat down with her husband, who had been kind of distant sexually with her. And this act of them, I think they went out to dinner and they did this together. It sparked all these conversations and they suddenly felt safer together. And then that opened the door for a little bit more intimacy again. So I think sometimes it's just a simple thing of bringing curiosity back, making
Love
space, and then treading quite delicately, because men are just as complicated as we are.
So this one is kind of about, what gets passed on from your parents. Karen from Halifax, do adult children end up patterning their parents' relationship? And what do you know about that?
I mean, I'm not an expert in attachment styles completely. And I also think anybody, it really is just one way of looking at relationships. And I don't think we're destined to repeat at all the sins of our, sounds very dramatic, but the habits and patterns of our parents. I do think, as we discussed with attachment styles, there are certain things that are embedded in us early on. If we learned a lot that, our fathers were the ones who were, frenetic and loud, we might at certain points in time in our lives be drawn into a relationship that mimics that becomes a familiar thing. But I don't think we're destined to that. Where I do think that we need to remember is that if we're feeling bothered or really stirred, reaction, if a reaction kicks up, it's something is there, and it probably is rooted either in an early traumatic relationship with a lover or something from your childhood. But no, I don't think we're destined. I think that is the work. Is to try to understand it, come with curiosity, and evolve past it.
Yeah, that's fair. While we have Cynthia here, should we see if we got any love voice notes? We have a few.
Let's see what we got. We never know what we're going to get, Cynthia. We don't screen them. We just put them on and hope for the best.
Good morning, ladies. First of all, I want to say congratulations, Jann, on your engagement. Super exciting. What I would love to see now is a Jann season 4 as a newly engaged Jann. since season 1, 2, and 3 were absolutely phenomenal, it'd be amazing now to have a season 4.
She's right. I don't know who it was, but great suggestion.
Yeah, well, it's funny. CTV never did cancel us, so maybe we're not canceled. We have
Oh,
no
maybe you're
idea.
just on the back burner.
Yeah, maybe we're on the back burner.
Burbling.
Talk to your
But-
coworkers, Cynthia. Figure
Yes.
that out for us.
Oh, I love that. Oh my God. That show was great.
Cynthia
couple
was
more.
on that show. She was
I
a guest star.
I was.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And a television host with Katie Lang. That was one of the most surreal, amazing.
That was so surreal.
So funny. Okay,
I
here's
agree.
another.
Hi, girls. This is Dana from Winnipeg, the center of Canada.
Yes.
Hopefully, with this cold weather, you're getting my message because the airwaves might freeze along the way.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm losing
I
you.
drive a transit bus here, and so I'm in traffic and I deal with people and different situations. So on my breaks, I like to not be peopling, and I'm been binge watching your podcast, and I've watched with George and Rick and Mary Jo and Sarah and just all and Marilyn, and just I'm just loving all this information and the things you talk about. I'm in between you guys. I'm 53, so I was like with the lava life dating and that fun stuff. Have traveled coast to coast. And what I want to say is that Canadians are beautiful coast to coast. I love this country. I love living here. And I'm proud of who we are as people. We drove up to one hotel in Edmundston, New Brunswick, and a lady saw our Manitoba plates and she started talking to me and saying, "Oh, my son lives in Winnipeg. He's with the military." And I said, "Well, my guy's with the military and he's been 26 years." And, you know, of course, they don't know each other. But anyway, she went into her car, and next thing I know, I have apples in my hand. She's like, "Here, you have some Honey Crisp from my tree in my yard." And
Caitlin
that's
would love
Canada.
this.
I loved it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I went to Peace by Chocolate and Antique and Niche, and I went to the Covered Bridge Chips, and I just try and support everything Canadian, including you girls. I'm on the fence about Patreon, but I think I'm almost there. Have an amazing day, and
I love
thanks
this
again for
slogan.
doing what you do.
The special guests in Patreon have been giving lately. All of the significant others, some children. It's been really fun. So
Yeah, it really has been fun. No, I get it. It's hard to think about paying for something that you don't have to pay for. But we appreciate it. We appreciate the opportunity to continue to make this podcast and yeah, because it does. It costs money to do it. But anyway, get off the fence. $5. You can't even buy a box of tampons for $5.
So a happy Valentine's Day to all of our listeners, especially those who send us voice notes.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't forget
It's
about our
been
Ask
amazing.
Jan
Yeah.
Ask Jan segment, because Jan may not be a Cynthia Loyst, but she has lots of great advice
Oh,
to give.
so-
Yeah, ever. She's been one of my most treasured people to go to for advice. You have been such I can't even tell you, Jan, how valuable I think you know, but if in case you don't, you have just been a guiding light, and your wisdom is, I only hope that I'm able to communicate some of that wisdom in the way that you have for me, for someone else at some
Of
point.
course you do. My God, it's been very mutual. It's been so mutual. And it's always beautiful to make friends later on in life. And you think that, you might not make friends anymore, that you have these childhood friends or friends that you work with, but you just know how precious it is. But we got so much to look forward to. We're on a giant adventure. And the thing with you also, whenever you and I when you've asked me advice about things, you always know what the answer is. And that's what I love about you. Like, it's just like we all need just that extra reassurance. I think we all kind of know in our hearts what we want to do, but we do need like a person just to say, yes, I would take that sourdough bread course and make it your own. It's worth spending $40 on. Like, you already know what the answer. God, if only life was that simple,
I
right?
know.
Anyway, I could talk to you for 100 years, and I hope to get a chance to talk to you for 100
Yeah,
years. But
let's live to
Yeah.
100 and whatever it is. Yes.
exactly.
Don't you
So
guys
thanks.
normally just call each other as soon as we hang up from this anyway?
Probably.
I know
Yes.
you too.
How did that go? What happened? No,
Yeah,
it's usually
anyway.
Cynthia likes a walk and talk. So if she's
Yeah.
heading to the GO train, or I'll be out fucking walking on the road, or I'll be in my car. But yeah, it's at all different times. But we always stay in touch. I don't think we're ever not in touch.
Love
And
you.
I love you.
Happy
And
Valentine's
I'm
Day to
so
you
proud
too.
of you.
Thank you.
So, and I'm glad you're taking time for yourself. I'm glad you do the fucking cold plunge and that you're prioritizing yourself. We are shit of use to anybody if we're not well and on our feet. We cannot help our kids. We cannot help our friends. We can't help our parents. We have to have our shoulders back, and we have to be selfish and look after ourselves. Full stop. End of story. I think it's without exception, look after yourself. And that's what we're
Amen.
going to leave you with today.
Yes.
Valentine's Day, don't go to fucking Shoppers and buy a heart-shaped box full
Don't
of
do it.
shit chocolates.
Don't do it.
Go for a walk in the trees and write somebody a
Right
poem,
on
even
that
if you
note.
don't fucking know how to write a poem.
That's right.
Just figure it out.
If you come over to our Patreon for this week, I'll tell you about my worst Valentine's Day ever. Okay?
Oh, okay.
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 Okay, love you. We've talked. Our guest
Love
has
you.
been Cynthia Loyst today, and
Yeah.
you can check her out 5 days a week on CTV, hosting The Social in their 13th season. It's a fantastic show. You guys have done such a beautiful job of keeping that fresh and keeping it relevant. And I think your fashion is getting better and better every year.
Can I also just say quickly, on the iHeartRadio app, you can find my podcast, which is
Yes.
Cynthia and Josie's Unmentionables.
Unmentionables.
About all kinds of things that women were told you shouldn't talk
Yes.
about, and we unearth all of them, from menopause to body image to the story of her husband's broken penis to everything.
That's
in
a good
between.
one.
Sex, it's shame, it's
I can't look that man in the face again anymore.
I know, everyone knows it's a great episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so people can check that out.
And when everyone thought Cynthia and I were having an affair, that's
oh
in
yeah,
there
we
too.
talked about that too. Oh yes, good times.
Oh God.
Okay.
Good times. Okay, Cynthia Loyst, thank you very much to all of you guys. We'll see you next time on the Jann Arden Podcast. Sarah Burke, Caitlin Green, Cynthia, myself, toodly-doo.